Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wealth Preservation Podcast. I'm Mark Seither.
And I'm Josh Saunders. Mark and I love learning about business, entrepreneurship, and how people started, grew, and preserved what they have worked so hard for. We have all made some cringeworthy mistakes in life and in business, and we want to help entrepreneurs and business owners avoid those pitfalls.
But while there's no blueprint for definitive success or failure, we can rely on the stories of other entrepreneurs for the lessons on how they launched and scaled up their business.
Some of the questions we love answered on each episode are: what mistakes have you made? What would you do differently in life and business? And what would you outsource first?
So come join us as we hear from entrepreneurs around the globe on topics such as their origin story, how they innovated in their industry, and the advice they feel aspiring entrepreneurs need to hear today.
We also like to have a little fun, so you hope you enjoy this episode and it inspires and encourages you. Well, hello everybody, welcome to another great episode of the Wealth Preservation Podcast. Today we are on with Savion Nehemiah of 413 Media. We are super excited. And now, as always, my sidekick, my buddy, my partner, Mark Seither. How's it going, Mark?
Good. Very excited to hear about this is definitely a topic in an industry I know zero about. So this will be very informational for me as well. But first, before we kick things off, so Sav, can you give everyone a quick breakdown of 413? Is it 413 or 413?
It's 413.
413.
Yeah, but I get 413, 413, however it comes out. But yeah, it's 413 Media.
Yeah. Give us a quick snapshot of where your company's based out of and what you do specifically.
Most definitely. So my company is 413 Media. I'm based. I have a digital footprint. So wherever my clients need me, that's where I'm going to be. What I do is I specialize in media and branding, mostly for athletes, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. So what I do is I just put a microscope and help my clients expand their brand to the fullest potential, whether that be video production, websites, social media management, anything like that. So totally across the board, whatever they need for their to build their brands, I'm their guy.
That's awesome. So if you haven't had a chance, go check out 413media.com. Lots of great videos that Sav and his team put together. Really cool stuff. So we're excited to talk about that. But as always on this first episode, right, we don't really talk a ton about what you do currently. We'd like to talk about, what made Sav, want to open his own business and go down this crazy path of entrepreneurship, and how many haters did he have, and how many people were told him he was crazy and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of excited to kind of dive into that part of it.
No, most definitely. I actually started my business in 2010, and
Okay.
not out of force. I actually had relocated from St. Louis, Missouri to Florence, Alabama, where I ended up attending the University of North Alabama. And just like any, college guy, you get into the town and you want to try to find a job. So, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be easy. So I'm like, okay, put my applications in and everything like that. And I'm just like, in St. Louis, it was easy for me to get a job, whether, I was working retail, car wash, anything. It was always easy. I never had a problem being employed. And for some strange reason, when I got to Alabama, I could not get a job to save my life. I put resumes in everywhere, and I just couldn't get a call back. And so I got to the point where I was kind of like, I'm discouraged. I'm just like, man, what do I'm like, I need money. I'm in school. I've never been the type of person that likes to ask my parents for anything. Um, so I'm just trying to figure out things to do. I'm trying to figure out things to do. And what happened was, being in college, you go into parties and things like that, sleeping late and things. And I had a conversation with my father, and he was like, "Man, you doing all this partying, man, and all this stuff like that. You need to get a job, man. You need to get paid to party. You know what I'm saying? If that's not the case, you need a job." And so it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, "Wow, I need to throw parties."
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, let me try this thing out. So I'm like, okay, cool. What's the first thing? In St. Louis, I was in a music group with my brother. So I already knew about grassroots marketing and handing
Sure.
out flyers and having to sell CDs. And, this was before the streaming age. So I knew what that hand to hand was about. So I said, okay, cool. If I can sell a CD for $10, I know I can try to get a couple people to come to this party. And so what happened was one of the biggest things, obviously, in throwing any kind of event is you need promotional material.
Right.
So I need promotional material, but I have no job. So I have no money to get a flyer designed. I have no money to get a flyer printed. So what do I do? I'm like, oh man, this cool new thing is out called YouTube. So I'm like, how do I design a flyer? And my first flyer, it took me like 3 hours to design. I did it. I found this really cheap company in town to like do these flimsy paper flyers, and I just went for it. So I got on campus. I'm handing it out, talking to the ladies, everything like that, and I just rolled the dice. I'm like, okay, cool, man. What is this going to do? I took the last little bit of money I had, rented a venue, got a DJ, everything like that, and then I waited. It was slow that night and everything, and next thing you know, it packed out, and I'm like, oh no, this is crazy. I'm like, oh man. So now, you know what I mean? Now I'm getting paid to party. So hey, Dad, what you gonna tell me now? I party every weekend. You know what I mean? So I'm doing it, and you know, I came up with the name 413 Media, because I was looking online. I saw that people had their tags and stuff like that on their different promotions, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna call it. I didn't know what I was gonna call it, so my mom always told me if I ever needed guidance or information or anything, always gonna be in the Bible. So I go to the Bible, I just open it, boom, makes sense. What makes sense? I'm like, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. And so then I came across Philippians 4:13. It said I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I was like, oh man, I can do everything. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing I can't do. So I was like, well, let me just take that and I'm gonna run with it, right? So next thing you know, other promoters in different cities started seeing my flyers and stuff as I was putting them out for my events. And then so next thing you know, it was like, hey, can you do a flyer for my event? Hey, can you do a flyer for my event? And then it just became like a weekly thing. And so now, not only am I throwing my own parties, but now I'm doing promotions for other people in other cities. It got to the point where they were asking me, hey, can you do commercials? Uh, yeah, I can do commercials. I'm not going to say I can't do commercials.
That's the
You know what
classic
I mean?
Yeah.
That's the classic entrepreneur move. Hey, can you do that?
Exactly.
Yes, I can. Sure.
Exactly.
But
Sure. Oh my gosh, how do I do that? How
Ask
do I
me
do
for
that?
details tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly. So once again, oh man, sitting here takes me another 3 hours to edit my first, get some B-roll and edit it in and make it all that kind of crazy stuff. So then it was like, okay, next thing was, hey, you have a camera, can you come shoot my event, and do a recap? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I can get one. I'm making a little
Yeah.
money from making this money from these parties, these flyers. So now I add camera work. And so I'm just adding these things to my repertoire and not even knowing that I'm building a business. And
Right.
then after I got to a certain point, I had a conversation with my father, and he's like, man, you need to get an LLC. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sounds
Is it manual, automatic,
sounds
five
good,
speed,
right?
six
And then so
speed?
I got the
Yeah.
right. Exactly. So man, I get the LLC, and then I haven't stopped since 2010, and it's all been, I haven't had to, and grace of God, I haven't had to advertise myself or anything. It's all been word of mouth from day one till today.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll dive into the whole we love the entrepreneurial journey because that's just like classic entrepreneurism, right? But let's go back, kind of like what was 8-year-old Sav Nehemiah at home with his parents? Was he like, you know what, Dad, you're gonna see it when I go to college. I'm gonna get paid to party. You watch, or was it what was kind of going on at that? Like, what were you an entrepreneur then, or was it just hanging out, or you playing sports, or kind of what was the thing?
Man, back then it was just really about. I've always just loved entertainment. My mom is a still to this day she's a singer, and so I've always kind of been around entertainment. So I was always an
Okay.
entertaining kid. Always had great energy, and loved talent shows and all that kind of stuff like that. And I really thought my life was gonna go, being a singer or a rapper or something like that, or even a producer or something. And so I really I never really was a school guy, but
Yeah.
it was instilled in me early on that if you start something, you have to finish it. So, I mean, I had to start it, and then so I kind of had my way through. Like, I really don't. I'm not. This is not really my thing. But I've always been able to find some kind of hustle throughout my life. That has just been like that's added to my business acumen. Just like, okay, all right, cool. So all right, just adding different things to my repertoire as I,
Yeah.
just growing up.
And, I
Yeah.
mean, did you have someone maybe within your family or someone that was an entrepreneur that like maybe you didn't realize influenced you at the time, but looking back, like, or was entrepreneurship just not in your like not in your atmosphere at all?
No, I know my dad, my mother and father, they did a couple of entrepreneurial endeavors early on, um, before I was or like like they had like retail stores and things like that. But by the time that I came around, they were working aerospace. So I've always seen career men and career women, um,
Yeah.
and I knew at a certain point in my life that, and different strokes for different folks, but it just wasn't for me because I like to meet people. I like to be, I like to set up
Yeah.
shop, and I make, like I said, I maybe in Orlando one day, and then the next day I'm in New York. You know what I mean? And I'm constantly in a different office, different space, different vibes. You know what I mean? That's always been me. I never really
Sure.
wanted to come to a certain place and I have to deal with these people for 25 plus years. That's not really my office gossip, things like that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
really wasn't
So
adventurous to me.
so real quick, you said you and your brothers were in a music group. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, we actually we had a rap group, man. It was called Next Level. Um and we did very well. We actually got to the point of about to go on a we did several college tours. We were actually about to go on a national tour, and um out of nowhere, man, my brother just comes to me one day and he says, "Man, I think I want to go to law school." So he goes to law school and leaves me, and I'm just like, thing anymore. But I mean, it was fun, man. It really gave me the platform of my businessman and my hustle because you have to pay for, like I said, those photo shoots and graphic arts and CDs, and you have to put gas in the car to get to these different shows. You have to get your T-shirts printed to sell your merch, all this stuff like that. So I'm learning not subconsciously how to build a brand. So
Right.
now I've
Yeah.
taken
Absolutely.
everything that I've done in music and I take that and I rinse and repeat my clients. It's just
Sure.
like I was saying, if there's a guy on a bench or whatever, and or he's playing and he's sponsored by Nike or Adidas or any one of these big brands, it's like, hey, well, why don't you put your logo on a shirt, and make your own extra income outside of
Right. Oh
Nike
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
Adidas and things like that? Because I mean, I know I've done that. I had to do that with my group. Well, man, why don't you sell? You've got this right here. Like people would love your memorabilia. People golf with you. People love to bowl. People love to game with you. Like just touching the people. So that was the biggest thing, man, that I learned is just totally while doing music with my brother was just branding and touching the people, man. And it's the core of my business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
So I mean, no, go ahead. Go
well,
ahead, Mark.
I was gonna add. I mean, because you kind of mentioned like, hey, the W-2 job didn't seem like it was for you. Your brother went to law school, right? That's a whole other animal in and of itself, right? I mean, did you have a period of time where you were kind of down that path and starting to like go into that more corporate structure, or was it just? I mean, was it that direct of a transition of like, I'm going to parties, I'm now getting paid to party?
Man, I there were times that maybe a party might flop or something like that. Being young, you don't have a concept of saving and things like that because you think you're spending the money as quick as you're getting it. So
Right.
you're like, oh man, and then you'll have your parents say, hey, you still need to get, those times that you're down. It's like some reason they always find out the times you're down is when they call you, and it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, you need to pay your insurance or the cell phone bill, and you're like, oh, that party didn't do too well. Yeah, I'm gonna get back with you. That's why you need a job, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, let me try and get some. So I would, ask maybe some of my friends and things like that for, if they could talk to and I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. It's just like, I call it fate. I just could not get a job. You know what I mean? No one would hire me. So it was like once again, not choice. I was forced to be into it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's
So you said you went to college in North Alabama.
correct.
So kind of talk like, and Mark and I, we have this conversation entrepreneurs all the time, right? Are entrepreneurs kind of created, or are they made, or are they born that way? And then also about college too, right? Like, how important do you think college is, to you and to people in general, or is it necessary, right? And we're indifferent, right? Good or bad. Mark and I both have too much college behind our backs, and we have our own opinion. So, what are your thoughts on
we,
college
we,
and that
we,
sort of thing?
we we've interviewed plenty of people who have zero college, right? And we're
Yeah,
we're on the interviewing
Right.
side about their success. So we
yeah,
know we
Right.
know like it could go either way.
yeah,
Right. No, most definitely. If I had it, when people ask me, younger people ask me about college, I always tell them, if you're going to go to college, just make sure that you have a plan. Make sure that you're going to school, and whatever you're
yep,
going to school for is going right into whatever your career is going to be. Um, I the best experience in college. I kind of came in and I told them what it is that I wanted to do. Once you sit down with the deans or the counselors or whatever it is, and I told them, I'm like, hey, I want to do like I'm. They're like, what are you interested in? I'm like, yeah, like the video production, graphic arts, stuff like that. And they're like, oh, okay. Um, boom, they're on the computer and everything like that. Okay, cool, we got you. And I go to my first classes and I look at my schedule, and they have me signed up for a Bachelor of Fine Arts. And I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
Bachelor of Fine. So I'm going into these art classes. I'm painting, I'm doing clay, I'm doing like photography and like photo rooms with the film and stuff in the dark room. Like, what in the world am I doing? I'm like, this has nothing to do with I'm a guy. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't do
right,
any of this stuff. And
right,
so I'm in there learning, mosaics and things like that. And I'm like, no, no, this isn't it. So it was rough for me. And I'm just like, no, I'm like, no, this isn't working for me. So
yeah,
I actually, this was my pivotal moment in college where it was almost over for me. I actually had an instance with a teacher. I was in a clay class or something like that. And it was, just to make a long story short, we had an man, that got me to the point where I was like, man, the school thing is not for me. Like, I'm already over here doing parties, making money. I'm doing these designs and everything. At 413 started up going. I'm like, man, I'm making money. That's why you go to school, right? This is my
right,
argument with my parents. That's why you go to school, to get money. Now, I got this. It's like, no, once you start something, you have to finish it. I'm like, so I'm about to transfer schools, transfer to UAB, but then they want me. I have to sit their program for like another 2 years. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not about to be this super, super senior, man. Like, I already don't want to be here. I'm
right,
like, why can't I just go do what I want to do? So I actually, my saving grace was, I actually, after meeting with the ombudsman and everything like that, in the art department, I actually ran into my friend, KT, in the parking lot, and he could tell I was down. He came up on me, Sal, what's going on, man? Everything all right, man? I'm just like, nah, man, I'm about to be about here. The school thing is not it, man.
right,
And he was like, man, like, it's there's this young teacher in here, man. He's trying to do, like film and stuff like that, like trying to do a program. Man, you need to go talk to him. And I was like, I'm at this point, I'm like, man, I
right,
care,
yeah,
bro. I'm done with this.
yeah,
But he's like, man, just go talk to him for me, man. Just go talk to him. I go back there, young teacher. I talked to him by the name of Jason Flynn. I talk to him. I tell him what it is that I do. Video production, graphic design, things like that. And he's like, actually, he's like, I'm really trying to build a program like that because things are going more digital. So that digital
yeah,
space and those jobs and stuff are opening up. So what he did, he actually presented my case to the board and was able to get a degree of film and digital media, and I was the first person at the university to ever get that degree. So he actually
Awesome.
saved me, man. And
Yeah,
so
right. Yeah,
I'm forever grateful for him, man. And
yeah,
so that was my college experience. I mean, I'm gonna say college wasn't necessarily for me, but if you go in with a plan, I'm not gonna discourage anybody. If you go in with a
yeah,
plan and you have a career in line with that exactly, um, you know, it's definitely a great thing.
yeah.
If you've already got something going, man, do it to the fullest.
Well,
Which
you're here to
which which, which
you heard it
college was
here.
that again?
North Alabama.
Okay, so any North Alabama people who got a degree in digital film and digital entertainment, or you're listening to The Godfather right now. They have the
That's right.
Yeah,
program because of
That's
Sav.
right. Yeah.
most definitely.
So
Yeah, yeah,
And I also think I heard you say, Sav, that education is stupid and there's no reason to go to school. That's what I think I heard you say. I'm pretty sure.
schools for fools.
No,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
get paid to party.
My parents are definitely
Get-
gonna watch this, so I'm gonna answer that. Mom,
get-
Dad, we did it. We
yeah.
did it.
Get paid to party. That's what he said. That's
Yeah.
where it
Hey,
came out.
And now
Uh,
I know where to go. Josh, we can finally get a clay sculpture of the Wealth Preservation Podcast.
Yes.
oh
Yes,
man.
Sav, we
Yes.
need a clay sculpture of Josh and I recording.
Yep.
Oh
There we go.
man.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like a lump of nothing.
That's what I look like.
That's what, yeah. If you see
Spitting
his body,
image.
that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
Oh man.
If I ever get in trouble, the police report's going to be like, we're looking for a lump of nothing going down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, sort of like we kind of talked about who kind of, kind of had to become an entrepreneur just out of necessity, right? Which is a great way to do it. But going back, what was kind of that first, like, what was your first job? Do you remember, was it working with your dad or was it doing something else? Kind of what was that first job?
Man, my first job, I actually went to go stay with my grandparents for a summer, and Deacon Hill,
Yeah.
he actually gave us he's a farmer, and he actually gave us, my brother and I, our first job selling watermelons in front of my grandmother's house.
Nice.
And I didn't know anything. I'm coming from St. Louis, man. It's like, we're the city all the
Yeah.
way to the country. I'm like, I don't know anything about selling watermelons. I'm like 8 or 9 years old. I'm trying to flag people down, but I'm not knowing, and that's instilling in me, that whole a businessman, because
Yeah. Hustle. Yeah.
have a hustle. Yeah, I got a product to sell.
Right.
I had to learn quickly. Okay, this is what a great watermelon looks like. Look at the size, and when you see the yellow ring, and I mean, it's crazy because to this day, even when I go to the grocery store, I know exactly which one to pick out for my wife. I'm like, no, that's not it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I mean, 8 or 9, man, we did that for like, I want to say we sold watermelons for like 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe 2 weeks, and my brother and I, we got $100 each, and it was like,
What?
oh,
We're going into the watermelon business.
Yeah.
oh man, I'm like, oh man, I got to be a businessman. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
oh, I can keep making this. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it. So, I mean, from there, I mean, that was my first job, and from there, I just knew I just love the hustle. I just
Yeah.
love it. You know what I'm saying? Just going in, and I don't know. It's like being an entrepreneur, man. It's like being addicted to gambling. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
seriously,
Yeah.
you every day you wake up you throwing crap. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
boom,
Yeah.
do you hit or do you crap out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you come out every morning, you wake up, you have $0. But when you come home, you have to have something. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where it started, that wolf mentality in me right there, like right then and there. And from there, it just was like little, cutting grass and um, working at the car wash and delis and things, you know what I mean? So it was just like, oh, okay, cool. I deliver these sandwiches, man. I get these tips and boom. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. So
Yeah.
it was just, that was
No,
just my kick. That was my kickoff.
and I think it is a little addicting because you kind of figure out that you can take care of yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're like, I can better myself. I can go do fun stuff. I can have money in my pocket to go do the things I want to do, and that gives you a freedom. And you kind of get addicted to that at a kind of a young age to go and do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to go back, man, once you have that. I always use this analogy, man, between like a wolf and a house dog. A and I don't mean to call anybody with a 9 to 5 a house dog, but it's just my analogy. It's just
Yeah.
like, and I'm pretty sure you guys have pets, but like, so certain time, your dog or cat knows it's going to eat, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
absolutely.
it's like, okay, it has no worry in the world. Whereas a wolf, you know what I'm saying, you eat what you kill. So you know what I mean? It may be you may eat this week, may eat in 2 weeks, you may eat in a month. You know what I
Right.
mean? But so you learn preservation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know not to. So you learn how to budget and things like that. So it's hey, I love it. You know what I mean? I guess you got to kind of be a little touched, but you know what I'm saying. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which we had a, you kind of mentioned the gambling thing too. Like we had another guest who, he had actually brought up the same thing, and he was like, "Yeah, I could never get into gambling because of this family situation, bad circumstance. But being an entrepreneur, I get to scratch that itch all day long. Like I
Yeah,
get to
no,
like,
seriously.
all right, is this $10,000 purchase going to pay off? No idea.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see.
don't
Right.
know
Yeah, see if it's
exactly.
gonna do it. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
So so you finish up so you ended up graduating from, you said UAB, or did you graduate from North Alabama? Is that where you
I
finished
graduated
up?
from I graduated in North Alabama. I
All right.
stayed once I
Yeah,
got into
and
that
so
program.
mom dad were happy. You got that done. Mom dad were happy.
You finished. You
It's
finished what
it's
you started.
it's I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ecstatic, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like at this point, how ramped up was your business at that point, right? Had you already gone through the LLC process through then, or were you still kind of scaling up?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I had already gone through the LLC process. I was doing, primarily like, my mostly my own projects and stuff like that with the parties and um that's when I started after graduating. That's when I started, attaining more clients and things like that.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
and from there, it went from being local people in my city, my state, to now people needed me in different cities and states and stuff like that. So I started to travel.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so I was able to do that after I started traveling and stuff my senior year.
So I know you said your mom and dad listen to this. So did your mom and dad ever come back and be like, so son, are you ever gonna go get a real job and go to law school like your brother? Is that ever gonna happen?
I mean, once they started seeing that, I was like, oh man, well, Stop's not calling us. He doesn't look like he's starving and things like that. It's like
Right.
I think he's doing all right. So the conversation kind of started, it slowly started going away. I was like, oh, I guess he's doing all right. Oh, I'm proud of you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's
Proud of me.
awesome. That's
Uh,
awesome. That's really cool.
and so, like, tell us a little bit more about that transition of like, you were local, and then all of a sudden you started seeing a need for you to go elsewhere and travel. What was
Right.
that? I guess just kind of expansion in general. Like, I mean, did you feel a little stretched thin at that point? Did you have to outsource anything?
No, I actually once again that all things, mentality came in. So I was just doing everything. But what I had to understand, I didn't start outsourcing anything until like these last couple years that I've been in business. Just because I mean, you as an entrepreneur, you become a perfectionist about whatever service that you provide, and you feel like nobody else can do it the way you can. It's like
Right.
even if you try to let somebody do it, you're like, you could have tweaked that and did that a little bit better, and so you're never satisfied. But I mean, I've been over these couple years been blessed to find some people that I can, that match my look and energy. But um, that initial expansion, I was ready, I was invigorated, I was excited, moving around with multiple people, so I had to keep a certain level of perfection of my craft with all these people. So that's where it
Right.
became stressful. Um,
Gotcha.
and so just learning how to manage that, and especially you still come in with that college procrastination and kind of being relaxed and things like that. And so now you're thrown into full on deadlines, and not only a deadline, but you have to wake up for this flight. And oh, by the way, you have to find time to eat. And you know what I'm saying? Then now you don't have time to exercise. And then that, you know what I mean? So it's like you're just overwhelmed. So time management became a serious issue that I
Right.
really had to, that was my biggest thing in my maturity in doing business was time management. Because then, you're in a relationship and now, oh, I can't go to the movies because I had to meet this deadline. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then now
Yeah.
you're starting to stress that area of life. So now it's like, okay, time management. Wusa. How are we gonna figure this out? All right, we're gonna do this from this time, this to this time, this to this time, and then you have to figure out budget. So that was the whole thing about expanding and starting to move around. It was just like time management and just budgeting and things like that, man, became a true challenge. But and not having a mentor, in that area. I mean, of course, like I said, I had parents that are career people. They were able to help me in a lot of that aspect, but when you're dealing with lump sum and this and invoice and it's just like you can't relate. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk about kind of this in the first episode. But so you graduated from, you got done with college and, this was already really going. And was it just like, hey, I'm 100% in and we're just going for it now, right? Like it's,
That's
all
it.
focus,
That's
all
it.
on
100.
413. Here we go.
That's it, man. Eat, sleep, breathe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I I eat, sleep, and breathe media and branding. Everything that I look at, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
Right.
how can I make this better? How can I expose this to the masses, man? And
Yeah. So the first kind of market you were after was kind of the, the promoting parties and things like that. And, how has that industry shifted, right? So, I mean, 2010 to now, I mean, we've seen, a lot of stuff has changed, obviously. But, kind of how did your business morph through that process?
right. So it started, yeah, once it started with the parties and the events and everything like that, then it came to, getting in contact with people who had businesses. So now they're trying to promote a sale or something that they have going on. Um, then you have, a friend of a friend has a a, a brother that plays in the league. He has a a youth camp coming up, needs banners and things like that, and
Sure.
so it just kind of just starts spawning out like that. So that's how that the parties. I mean, it started. It really was just like putting my portfolio of what it was, but then from there, I had to realize like there's everything needs promotion, everything needs branding.
Right.
So I was like, oh wow. So I'm not just stuck in this party lane. Like everything, the way that everything is moving now, everything needs branding and everything needs media. That movement.
Yeah.
So it's just wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And because then well, I mean, this isn't really one of the things we've had conversation with other entrepreneurs on, right, is the what drives what the marketing versus the business. I guess as a marketing guy, what's kind of your big push to other businesses, or now you work with athletes on like, hey, this is why, like, without this you're hosed, maybe not hosed, but definitely not putting your best foot forward.
For sure. I mean, my biggest thing, I just tell them in 2 words, man: exposure and consistency. You know what I mean? A lot of reasons that businesses and athletes, brands, and things like that they fail is simply because you just don't know. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
you have no brand identity and no exposure, you just don't know. And then on top of that, one issue that I had when I first started is people would say, okay, hey, yeah, I need this logo or I need, something specific for my business. They would get that and not realize, like, hey, you have to put some consistency behind this. People have to
Right.
continue to see this. It's got to be in your face. If it's not in your face, once again, you killed your exposure. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
so that's what I tell them, man. Just combining those two things. I mean, those are gonna be. I mean, those are the blankets of your business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, for example, I mean, to back that up, Mark and I started this podcast and, our goal was at least 18 months, right? It's 18 months to get traction. And,
For sure.
here we are we're at about 18 months and it's just amazing to, watch it, climb, it'll plateau and then it'll keep climbing and and
Exactly.
you gotta be consistent, right? Because if somebody only, does 6 episodes of a podcast and like, oh, we didn't get any traction and they quit, that's not long
Right.
enough time to build an audience. And, and that's that same way across all branding, right? I mean, you got to just be in
Exactly.
front of people all the time.
All the time. That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. For
Yeah.
sure.
And so yeah, and we'll get more intense into this in the next episode, but I do want to touch on, you went from, you're promoting parties, you're promoting businesses, you eventually shifted into athletes. Tell
Correct.
us a little bit more about that transition. And I mean, that's really the side I'm clueless about, right? So I'm
Mm.
super excited to hear a little bit more
Yeah.
about how that works.
Oh no, most definitely. That transition, it was really again, it was like, them needing certain things as far as like whether it be for their personal brands or their foundations and things like that with another event or something like that. And so it was like, hey, okay, man, I got this guy Sav, man, you can just do everything. That way you
Sure.
don't have to, look for anything. So
Yeah.
it just started off and one thing about athletics, whether it be, college football, NFL, NBA, it's a small circle. So once you get into that circle, it's like, hey man, this is who did great work for me. You need to give him a call. Now you're working with this next guy. And then it just goes on and on and on like that. And then that, you built a rapport with these guys and you have a certain trust factor. So it's like, hey, let's keep going. So it just multiplies. So it was just
Yeah.
a smooth transition. I can't Yeah, it was a smooth transition. I can't even think where it really truly even started, but
Sorry.
like
Yeah.
Mhm.
once it did, it was just like working with everybody. So it's been a blessing.
Hey everyone, quick pause here to let you know you can find more episodes at wealthpreservationpodcast.com.
Or if you want videos, you can go to YouTube, and we're also there.
Subscribe and you'll be updated on our most recent guests and any other news we have coming out.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back. We're here with Savion Nehemiah, talking 413 media and all things media and branding and entrepreneurship. So, Sav, thanks for being on the show.
Most definitely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, kind of, again, we're going to really dive into this in the second episode, but what was it like when, the NIL thing came up for college athletes? Well, that was like a whole new untapped market, right? Like that was like a whole new thing.
Most definitely. That was definitely big because myself, but I was already working with a prominent trainer here in Birmingham, Kevin Brown, man, who he's like a mill of talent, man. He's just had all kind of D1 guys coming through and pro athletes. And, we work together in building not only his personal brand as a trainer, but also, a lot of the kids and things like that. So, but starting off, I mean, really all it was, building their brand, but it was kind of almost like a hype type thing. They couldn't really maximize off of it. So now with this whole NIL move, it's like, you know, they can truly focus on, not only just being athletes, but really starting their businesses early.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, and kind of what is that industry? It's kind of wild, wild west right now, right? I mean, we had the whole
Most
Jimbo
definitely.
Fisher, Nick Saban thing recently.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. But kind of what is where do you see that? I mean, kind of where is it at right now? And what kind of where do you see that part of the the college athletics going? Right? I mean, is it
Well,
is there going to be some changes coming?
and also, can you define for the listeners what the
Oh yeah,
NIL
sorry.
stands for?
Yeah,
Uh, what was it? National. I haven't used it in a while.
name,
Let me
image, and
see.
likeness.
Okay, duh. Of course.
Yeah.
See, yeah, gotta get me back on track. I just got off this plane, but yeah, with the name, image, and likeness, it's huge. You know what I mean? And it's these kids are actually able to touch a lot of money. That they've already been making these universities, man, so they can
Sure.
really help their families and things like that. So I definitely see it as a positive, and it's only going to grow. I mean, because just like professional athletes, these kids have tons of TV time. Uh, and it's great to align themselves with other big brands. You know what I mean? It's
Sure.
just really just I think it's a beautiful marriage for not only the college athlete, but even these attaching these brands, with these guys early on, so they can just flourish their careers from the beginning.
Sure. Like,
Well, and
kind of what do you go ahead, sorry,
I
man.
was gonna say I know like some people and I'm not really well. I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and take a side. I when they I was a little shocked when I found out how restricted it was on the college athletes making money. I was surprised to hear the people who were against it. Right, the reasoning they had against it. I was like, well, it seems like you're just robbing these kids of their ability to
Right.
like almost become little their own entrepreneur. Right, I mean they're building
Exactly.
brands. They can build their own business around their success in college. Right, I didn't
Right.
really understand the downside of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and see, the thing is a lot of people don't really know the backstory of a lot of these athletes and don't realize,
Sure.
a lot of the circumstances that they come from. And I think if they really took time and to really see, the backstory of a lot of these young ladies and gentlemen, that they will realize like, okay, yeah, they definitely need to be their own entrepreneurs and to get a piece of this, billion-dollar industry that is continue to build these large educational institutions. And I don't understand why it would offend people, when a coach can make millions of dollars, but the
Right.
players can't get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you find out that the number one job for college athlete, like big college athletes that don't go pro, or people who are pro for a very short period of time, is slinging insurance. I mean,
Right.
anything to
Yeah.
save them from that. I mean,
Exactly.
no one wants to
Yeah.
land there.
Of course not. No, man. Especially now the kids have the ability to make enough money in college that they can do whatever they want to do. They don't have to
Mhm.
do insurance anymore. So I
Right.
think people should definitely open their eyes, man, to really giving these and celebrating these kids having options now.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be any, obviously you're in it more than, but do you see any downside to it? Do you think, on the college athletic side, is it going to, again, I'm being devil's advocate. I think it's a great thing, but, is it going to take some of the amateurism out of college athletics and make it, not as good and for
I don't
some
think
things?
I don't no, I don't believe so because I mean these kids still have to show up and do their jobs.
Sure.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Just
Yeah.
because they sign these contracts with these different brands does not
Yeah.
amplify them to the league. It doesn't, it doesn't keep their stats going or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just like the quote says, it's not the getting, it's the keeping. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Mhm.
So they get that brand exposure and things like that. Now they have, you know, just a attention on their career. So they have to go that much harder. If anything, I think it steps up the pressure on them for their careers.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because now you kind of have something to build towards, and you're like, man, I got this thing going. I got to work hard to keep. I got to keep being a good athlete so I can keep building a brand because that's how it feeds. That's what feeds the family and my people around me and stuff, which is important.
Most
Yeah,
definitely. I agree.
gotcha. Okay, sweet. Um, do you think there's going to be any tweaks to that rule over the coming years? Again, we'll go back and reference the Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher. The Alabama, A&M. Kind of kerfuffle, if you want to call it. But is
Right.
that, is there, because right now it's like wild, wild west, right? There's like kind of
Right.
no rules, right?
I think with any good thing, it always comes to they're gonna put some kind of restraints on it, man. But hopefully they leave it how it is. I mean, I don't see how it's impacting any program in a negative way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
I'm pretty sure there will be some changes, but hopefully it's if there are any changes, I hope that it's in favor of the athlete.
oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. I just am always curious as, the lifespan of how many people make it from, college to the pros, right? It's slim, right? And so
Right.
you always want to make sure, again, we had that conversation about education, but are they going to be able to transition if they don't go to the next level, right? And go be able to do something to make sure that they can, feed their families and stuff like that, post college or post college athletic career, right? Which is always a kind of a hard thing to do.
Most definitely. No, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Uh, that's really cool. So what is it like working with college with athletes in general? I mean, is there any ego there, or is it ever like you're like, man, I am not working with that guy?
Well, I think I've been blessed because you know I'm coming to these guys already been vetted out by previous clients and things like that. So I already have
Gotcha.
my reputation will precede myself. So they already have a certain level of trust.
Yeah,
So it's really just smooth for me because they already know what to expect because of I'm coming from a reputable you know person. So every athlete I've worked with, I mean, you might have some different demeanors as far as like some might be more boisterous, some might be more quiet. But at the end of the day, it's just a mutual respect, and we know we have a not only a job to get done, but a lot of them actually turn it. I actually build a rapport with a lot of them because
yeah,
you're in their personal space for long periods of time,
sure.
and consistently working with them. So now at this point, it's like you know you build a bond. So it's not even a client type of relationship. It's like, oh man, go soft, man. What's going on, man? Let's go get something to eat. Let's relax. Okay, cool. We got this event at this time, and man, do your thing, man.
Yeah,
It's just that simple, right?
gotcha.
It does sound better than a W-2 job.
Man, it is, man. I've been some amazing places, man, because of a camera with a camera and a laptop, man. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. See, you can make money from playing video games and buying cameras and laptops.
Hey,
There you
it
go.
Perfect.
truly it is. It's a different world. It's a different world.
So that's probably a good place to pause. Next episode, we're going to dive a little bit more into 413, exactly what you do, how you work in that branding, especially with the college athletes. So we're going to take a quick pause right now for our speed round. First one, who has been the biggest influence on your professional development?
I have to say my family. I can't even really just put it into one person. I just have to say my family, man. They've been constantly encouraging. Um, so I'd have to give it to them for sure.
Except at first, they weren't so encouraging at first, but now it's better.
Oh yeah, now that's working.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. You could be like, yeah, my brother, because I saw him be an attorney, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Nope, I'm getting paid to party.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, any books that you've read that you kind of recommend, like you're currently reading or have read, that you're like, yep, this speaks to me, and this is going to help me on either my business or just being an entrepreneur or just being a better person or doing the things I need to do?
I would say can't think of a book at the moment, but I know that I follow a guy by the name of Devon Franklin, who's kind of in my career field. He's a film producer, and I always constantly check out his Instagram for motivation and things like that. And I just love the way that he attacks with motivation, especially for
Yeah.
people in our career field.
Yeah. Awesome.
So not business related, but if you were able to sit down and have a meal with one sports athlete, dead or alive, who are you gonna book that meeting with?
Oh man, it's so easy, man. Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
The gold bond guy?
Oh man.
Oh,
Talking
General
about
Insurance. He's the general.
not only was he a beast on the court, man, but he is a beast at branding. Check
He
him out.
is.
You can't
Absolutely.
you can't turn on the TV and not see my man.
Yeah.
I actually just saw that clip where someone was talking to Charles Barkley, and they're like, "Hey, do you ever see Shaq around?" He's like, "See him? I can't not see him. Every time I turn on the TV,
Exactly.
there's Shaq."
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's somebody that all athletes should look at and just say, hey, this is the pinnacle of what you can do with yourself outside of, your sport.
Yeah. And I've used his quote on many an occasion of one of his kids said, "Hey Dad, are we rich?" And he was like, "No, son, you're not rich. I'm rich."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good mentality to have. Yeah.
Yeah. You are not rich. Your dad is rich. You are not. Yeah.
Exactly. That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So last speed round question for this episode. You get a chance to go on Shark Tank. You're there. You're pitching the sharks, and all four or five of them, whichever episode you're watching, all 4 or 5 of them give you offers. Who are you going with?
Man, I think I'm gonna go with Mark, man, because he's in my field as far as with the tech and media and things like that.
Yeah.
That's how he built his fortune. So I'm gonna say I think we're more parallel. So I have to go with Mark Cuban.
All right.
Nice.
Well, hey, Mark Cuban, if you're listening, DM me. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, we'll make
For
a
sure.
connection for you.
Let's do it.
Let's
do
Come
it.
on, Mark.
Oh, perfect. Well, so where can people? We'll wrap up with this. Where can people find and go follow you on the internet? I mean, you have a digital presence, no brick and mortar. So where can people find you?
Most definitely. My website is 413 Media spelled out. FOURTHIRTEEN media.com. I wanted to make sure everybody knew it. And then on it, you can find me. My personal Instagram is SuaviD, SUAVIED, and my business Instagram is at the numbers 413 Media.
All right, and we will have that in the
Follow
show
me.
notes. Yeah, we'll have that in the
Awesome.
show notes. I will make sure to double check that it's 413, not 314, because that link is going to lead you nowhere. So
Nowhere.
perfect. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on. Really looking forward to diving into a little bit more about how you operate, kind of how you scale people's branding, and we'll go more into that. Thanks again for being on. Yeah.
Definitely. It's been a privilege.
Just so you know, none of our guests have been paid to be interviewed. We don't charge for downloads, and we have never sold ads.
And though our wives and accountants wish we would, probably, this podcast is purely for the distribution of amazing stories and information only.
However, we do need to make one quick legal jargon-filled disclaimer. The information provided here is for educational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. Make sure you contact a professional before you decide to do something. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a contact or drop an email to info@wealthpreservationpodcast.com, or you are welcome to reach out to any of our guests using information provided in the episode.
Or in human speak, don't act solely on a guest that you heard on a podcast one time, because that would be dumb. Thanks.